It's 10 o'clock Mountain Time. It's Thursday. That means it's time for Tom and Shane. And today we're going to talk about why births are declining. Birth rates in China, US, Europe, all declining. And we're going to see if we can filter out what is the cause of this birth decline across the world. And don't forget that we're here every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Don't forget to subscribe. Ring the notification bell. You'll always be notified no matter what time zone you're in. And like us, leave a comment because, everybody likes that and it moves us up in the searches and all that stuff. So, Shane, we're talking about recently. I guess it came to light that China, for the first time since the '60s, I guess, has lost a population and. Looking at the population in 1900, there were fewer than 2 billion on the planet. Today, we're looking at 8.5 billion in, 100 years or so. So, quite a growth. Are you there?
Yeah, I think these numbers. I'm here. I
Yeah.
think the numbers are way off, and I just perceive that that's because of the globalists that are talking about world population having reduced it, and the green plan to save the planet. This is all about directing money where they want it to go, not for anyone's individual benefit except their own. And it's not it's a conspiracy for that, but it's not properly found. You
Mhm.
look at the UN report that just recently they say the global birth rate is 2.3%, but that's really a deception. China alone loses now over 10 million people die in China a year. That's
Mhm.
up from 7.5 million in 3 years and growing at an annual rate. So over 500 million people in China are over 60.
Mhm.
So the population in China by the year uh, what is it, 2022 or the next century or uh, the problem is they're not growing. So back to this claim of 2.3% birth rate globally, that has more to do with um, ideology. Really, amazingly enough, but not by country. Because the Muslim population of the world is growing at a birth rate that's argued at anywhere from 4 to 8 times.
Mhm.
Like 4.1% to 8%. So there's that issue. And then you have all the European countries. Not a single European country has a sustainable birth rate, which is 2.1. They're all between 1.7, 1.8. The
Mhm.
big countries, Germany, France, Italy, Britain. So they're in trouble. Japan is in serious trouble. Last year was the first
Mhm.
time in 100 years that they had less than a million births in Japan last year. So the demographics for Japan is as a country because it's unlike other countries. It doesn't really it's not open for diversity. They
Yeah.
just want Japanese there, so probably gone.
Mhm.
There's different arguments. Fewer children in China because of you know the one child policy of that their
Mhm.
fearless leader. But more importantly, is that what this has done to weaken, economies, and everyone's talking about this situation that we're going
Mhm.
into here in the next year, or we've already survived it. The fact is that India now looks to be
Mhm.
in the next 75 years to maintain as the largest
Mhm.
population. Theirs is
Yeah,
growing.
India is going to pass China in this year.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the global population reached 8 billion in November,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're going to pass. And they said 10 million people died in China. Only 9.56 million were born. That was the first time since the 1960s
Yes.
that that has happened. And as you're rightly pointing out, China's economy is a total mess. They're in big trouble. Their housing, home prices deflating. Home builders are deep in debt. The government, high tech, People, because of TikTok and other things, they're bailing on that. The virus also caused some problems there, and a long predicted demographic downturn in the country has also arrived. So China's in trouble. I mean, big trouble.
Yeah, it is in big trouble, and sadly, you take just an example. Even though they've had 50 years to try and catch the U.S. in so many areas, they haven't. This is one. There are 138 million homes in the United States, and 67% are single-family units. That's like 68 million,
Mm-hmm.
and 6% of those are manufactured homes, so they can be put up really quickly. And yet you look at the situation right now. There's 64 million vacant single-family homes in China right now. 64 million, and on top of that, 50 million apartments and condos. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're at 115 million empty single-family homes, condos, and apartments in a country of 1.4 billion people.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this because the important contrast is communism doesn't allow for the economic system to provide the opportunity for people to invest. These billionaires in China, particularly in the real estate industry and building industry, they're so vastly overvalued
Mm-hmm.
because they're holding on to empty assets. And we know
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
talk about stocks all the time in that they're virtual.
Mm-hmm.
There's it's only what someone's willing to pay for it. And
Yeah.
in our we've learned in our
Mm-hmm.
economies in 100 years that you have to have a boom bust. You got to have that bust,
Every
and
once in a while.
that's
Yeah.
right. And that bust is since the '70s been called a recession,
Mm-hmm.
but like back in 2006, eight, that
Yeah.
was a depression. It was short, but boy, was it! Everyone got hammered by it.
Yeah. Bruce says, what is the rate of birth defects in Japan? A few years ago, it was 10%. And live births were 10% of birth defects. So China has a aging population. That's the one of the
Yeah,
issues with
that's
them.
it. Hmm.
That's the biggest problem with them. Their population is well over the 35 or 40 average, I guess, of most countries. So they're in big trouble. But as you mentioned earlier, yeah, birth defects across the Europe, Belgium down, Estonia, France, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Spain, Ukraine, England, and Scotland, all down, Shane,
Birth
in
rates, yeah.
birth rates. Yeah,
And of course, Japan. When asked about that, the thing about it,
Mhm,
it's so fascinating. The study's been going on for better part of 5 years. The
mhm,
infertility of the men in Japan. There's a
mhm,
serious problem.
mhm,
Like 60% of the millennials,
mhm,
males, are infertile, and
mhm.
they can't. I mean, it's for that big of a percentage, something has had to change.
Yeah.
That and it can't be diet or lifestyle because they've been living the same lifestyle and eating the same
Yeah.
diet for a
Mhm.
thousand years. So
Well, it's
yeah,
two it's two atomic bombs in
yeah, probably
1945 and
yeah,
Fukushima.
yeah.
So the
Could
two
very well
things
be.
there,
No, I agree with you. Could very
yeah,
well be.
could be some kind of radiation deal going on. I don't know.
But this
We're
started long before
speculating on
that,
that.
though.
So yeah.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
the issue in Japan with that Fukushima, that this is before that. This first
Yeah.
in
No, I know. It
I know.
goes back. It goes back a ways.
Yeah.
The U.S. First time, I guess, in a while, we're up 0.4%, million 200,000 births to 330,000 in 2022. Now, a lot of people didn't plan children in 2021 or 22 because of COVID. They didn't know what was going to happen with that, and that's been but in spite of that, at least, we, after the lockdown stopped and things sort of got back to normal, people started having children again. So hopefully, we'll be back in the plus column sometime. I don't
Well,
know.
it's just again, numbers can be moved or massaged for anyone to claim claiming the global birth rate's over 2%.
Yeah.
You look at Angola, 43.7% birth rate.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nigeria, 43.6% birth rate.
Yeah.
Mali,
Yeah.
43.2% birth. We're talking about Europe at 1.7,
Yeah.
or China
Yeah.
barely, at 1.8, and these countries are like double digits, like in the 40s. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the it's great to have these conversations for you and me with our listeners, because
Mm.
we want to go over all of these numbers
Yeah.
and as you say, do a deep dive, because you can't just look at the ones you want,
Yeah.
because you can make that story.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. But it's really sad when you look at countries like Russia's 1.5, China's
Mm.
1.28,
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine is 1.22. It's a remarkable reality that in 3 generations, 60 to 75 years, birth rate of a country of less than 2% just
Yeah.
sort of goes away. America and Canada will probably be the most populated area in the planet in 75 years. I think in excess of 500 million,
Yeah.
and a lot of it will have to do with immigration. But unlike Europe, Europe is basically unregulated immigration, like you have in your country at the Mexican border, right? Refugees.
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, they call them refugees. You know, in the U.S., they call them unregulated immigrants. It's
Yeah.
quite funny. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, I don't know. It's tough to know the exact numbers, obviously, because it's just hard to it's hard to figure these numbers because they're different countries do it in different ways, and uh, I don't know. Um, we had a question: birth rate versus death rate. Each year, there are approximately 4 million births in the U.S. and 2.4 million deaths. So the growth due to natural increase, total births minus deaths, is therefore 1.6 million per year, according to the census. And so the U.S. population is growing approximately 3.3 million people per year.
See,
So,
that's a
yeah.
perfect example of someone not listening to what we're talking about. We're talking about birth rates.
Well, we are, yeah.
We're
But,
not talking about the differences in deaths to
well,
births.
that's why
And
China is down. It's sort of in the ballpark of what we're talking about. We're just comparing U.S. to China, where China for the first time since the '60s has had more deaths than births. So the numbers are just for comparison.
that's correct, and that's important. And I have to mention this because it's such a giggle that you know uh, recently Chinese electric vehicle company
Hmm.
XPENG
Hmm.
they're one of the largest designers of electric cars in China, big competitor of Tesla, and they've announced that or not just announced, but unveiled their designs of a flying car. So this is I keep bringing this for two reasons. This is going to change the global economy in the next 30 years, no question about it. But more importantly, it'll solve the global warming issue about cars and electric cars. And number three, that the work it's going to create and the wealth it's going to create. There are over 500 companies now working on similarly designed vehicles. So this isn't a maybe song. Tesla's now announced in last week it will launch a flying car business by 2050, and and Morgan Stanley saying it's going to be worth 1,000. It's going to put value Tesla at $1,000 a share. I mean, you look at it
Hmm.
today, and everyone's beating him up.
Hmm.
Between Twitter and the electric car business, Tesla. But he's all set. It's all automated manufacturing, so he can switch it over to produce vacuum cleaners if he wants
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
The reason I mention this is because this has always been the big argument with a country like China or even India is to try and catch up with the United States with technology and this firebrand attitude of we're going to be the biggest economy in the world, and and here we are today talking about the bottom line reality is it comes down to birth rates. There are not enough workers now in China. That's why they're in a
Mm-hmm.
depression. Country's
Yeah.
going down. Still have over 200 million people locked down. They don't want to let them out because those people are going to go find out they don't have jobs.
Yeah.
There's so many things happening in China that
Mm-hmm.
aren't being reported because the media in the West wants to create this
Yeah.
panda bear. Well, oh no, it can't be a panda bear, a
Yeah.
dragon. This giant, there's all power, and it's just a panda bear looking for bamboo to eat and chew on.
I guess. Well, yeah, for birth rates, a lot of things contributed to it. COVID has contributed to it in some ways. Fear of the future. I think a lot of people have, a lot of women particularly, have said they don't want to bring somebody into this world that's polluted and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or that where too many people can't be fed, medical care, all of this. But I don't know. I guess people didn't have that problem in the 1700s or 1800s or 1900s, so they had no problem bringing kids into the world with no
Yeah.
electricity, no indoor plumbing, no growing their own food and whatever. So
Yeah, well,
uh,
women don't want to utilize their indoor plumbing, and the rest of the world is looking for more women that want to make use of plumbing. So
yeah,
it's one of these things that again, when you look at the global rate, I said it. The
yeah.
religious context here, is the birth rate of the Muslim religion. I mean, they're going to take
Mhm.
over Europe without firing a
Yeah.
shot. They
Well,
tried for
we've seen the Hispanics have become the number one minority
That's right.
here because they are primarily Catholic, which don't
Mm-hmm.
believe in birth control. They don't believe in abortion, and so they've passed the black community, which aborts. In New York City, if you're black, you have a better chance of being aborted than born. So yeah, it's no surprise that the Hispanics have passed. The black community as the top minority in the United States. So and that's going to continue. And with the influx of immigrants, that's going to continue even more.
And knowing what we've seen in the past by the 21st, 2100, 22nd century,
Hmm.
21st,
Yeah.
20, 2103, we'll say. What we're going to find is it's not going to be a world, uh, with all the technology, because there'll just be more. Uh, Talking about economics or manufacturing or gross
Yeah.
product, it'll all be religious because it'll be primarily Christian
Hmm.
believers in Christ and God
Hmm.
and Muslims. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
There'll be 2 billion of each or more. The population of the planet will be somewhere between, I think, 5 to 5.5 billion. It'll
Well,
drop.
it's 8 billion now.
Yeah,
Or
I still think it's going to
yeah.
drop significantly in the next 70
Oh, you
years.
think so?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's going to drop by at least 2 to 2.5 billion.
Mm.
You just look at these numbers and that's what they say.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
not making up the numbers.
no,
I
I
mean,
I understand
look at
that.
China, 10 million people a year in
Mm.
70 years. That's
Yeah.
700 million people.
Yeah, but
You know,
their birth rate is almost
yeah,
equal.
but
I
it's
mean, they,
collapsing. These
yeah.
numbers don't even really include the
Mhm.
millennials. They still
Yeah.
include our generation because
Well,
they're grabbing at anything they can to get a bigger number.
yeah, but in China, you're only losing 1 million people a year, and that's not much.
No, no, there's over 10 million people that die here in China.
Yeah, but there's 9,900,000 born,
Well, it's
or
9 million.
9 million born.
You know, it's
So the difference is minimal. For China, it's
yeah,
just that
but it's
they're less.
accelerating. As I said, it's accelerating from seven,
Mm,
and you've got,
yeah,
you know,
Japan is more likely to expire than China.
well, Japan as a culture and civilization will, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. I
That won't
feel
happen in Japan. China will have around 5. 100 million people by the end of the century.
Yeah.
But they will have done what the Spanish failed to do as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the only success of the 1500 devastation of Central America and the Americas by Spain was Brazil, and that was really the result of Portugal because they were the guys running the slave ships. But the Spaniards took all that gold and silver and went home and partied.
Yeah.
They didn't build any infrastructure except big navies, and they like the French did the same thing. So
Yeah.
it depends entirely where you're at, and we're seeing the result of that. That's why it's so fascinating watching what's going on in China, and how this whole system holds on, because the danger of a depression, which I think they're in,
Yeah.
is it always results in radical change. We understand it as what caused it. It will not have been something that's happened before, and it will always have been worse than anything else before. So we try to recognize those things and adjust. We try to adjust and make regulations or change so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
In 29, the reason you slid into a 10-year depression was for just basic lack, literally, of coin. There was no paper money. Nobody could invest. Nobody could create anything. So I mean, these great ideas that people have, but you got to get down to sort of the basics of what caused it and how you solve it as quickly as you can.
Yeah. Well, we have the opposite problem now. We're producing too much money, but that's
Oh
a
my
whole
God!
nother.
And it's this whole
Yeah,
week
that's a
with
whole nother
yeah.
thing. But
Well, but that's critical to the whole issue of what we're talking about because you lose control of certain things. Like in China, like we're talking about, they're losing control of a very small minority of people controlling the entire country, and them not knowing what to do to, create a change. Um,
yeah,
in the United States, what the problem is your debt, but no one's wanting to do anything to solve the
yeah,
problem.
nobody's going to do anything about it. And
Yeah,
today,
until
they got to do something by midnight tonight, or otherwise, oh, gee, the non-essential people that aren't needed 365 days a year have to going to go home. So I don't know what we'll do there. So,
yeah,
all
well,
right.
they don't need to expand your debt. You
No,
don't.
they don't. Yeah,
This is a woke,
yeah,
lie by your
yeah.
media to create more debt, and you
We
don't
got to
need
buy
it.
votes. You got to buy votes, Shane. That's all
That's
it
right.
is. You got to
You're
buy
right,
votes.
buddy.
Yeah,
You called it with the election
yeah.
and
Got
it
to buy
being
votes.
abortion. So you're
Yep.
right, but that's all about. So I guess we should all be expecting another check, Social Security check
I
from
no problem. I'm sure
Uncle Biden.
it's on the
Uncle
way.
Biden. Yeah, it's got to be on the way.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Hey, don't forget to subscribe, ring the notification bell. You'll be notified anywhere you are, any time zone, whatever, as to when we're on, so you never miss another Tom and Shane. And like us, leave a comment. Let us know if you like this program. You want to hear more of this type of program. Let us know because we want to provide what you want to see. So. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Hey, don't forget, we are on radio every Saturday. If the crawl down below, we're on 8 to 11 Mountain Time. You can listen live at kmmsam.com. Just click listen now. No sign up, no email, nothing needed. All you do is click and listen. You can text us, you can call us. All of that is available. And all of our shows are up on kmmsam.com, video and audio. And we'll be on the radio, as I mentioned, Saturday, 8 to 11 Mountain Time, kmmsam.com. Till then, we'll talk to you on the radio on Saturday.